Hello, this is Tytti an Associate Trainer for Art2Ride, and here is an in-hand lesson with Janiene and her horse Maggie. Maggie is a little bit mouthy, and we had a bit of a discussion of what bit may be a good idea for her. Here she has just now a totally normal French link. And I think it may just be a little bit too movable and bulky in her mouth. So I suggested that perhaps a Neue Schuler turtle top may be a better option for her, since it is less movable three-piece snaffle with the flattened lozenge. So in effect it will rattle less in her smaller mouth, and the joints are hidden within the lozenge as well, so they won't kind of stand up there at all. So the turtle top is specifically designed for a small mouth, and with a sensitive tongue, but it is still a totally normal three-piece loose ring snaffle, just a little bit changed with the lozenge and so on. What we have found with Bölle, who has a really big and sensitive tongue, is that while the horse may have issues with the mouth in the beginning, when they have little muscle, the more muscle along the top line, the less trouble with the mouth. So it might be that after a while she also will kind of calm down with her mouth. But now throughout this video you can see how she's quite chomping quite a lot and being quite restless with her mouth all the time. So she's obviously not quite happy with the rattling of the French link at the moment, and it might just be a little bit more disturbing for her because it moves so easily, and the joints are kind of up and can hit her palate more easily because she's a bit smaller in the mouth, that is. So here I already started, and I noticed that I tried the smaller circle with her because she's really another heavy leaner, so she's really leaning towards me all the time, and I need to also use my hand on her shoulder or my elbow to kind of give a little bit more stronger aid if the whip does not work so well. So with the whip I always aim to just tap. I'm not wanting to slap or whip her, and if that doesn't if the whip aid does not function, then I use my hand, as in tapping on her shoulder to ask her to move over. And if the hand doesn't work, then I use my elbow, which is a little bit stronger aid again. But it all is equivalent to a leg aid if you were riding, so to say. So here you can see I'm just trying to ask her to start stepping over with her inside hind leg, and with that actually what functions best with her is again the smaller circle work. And here you can see me, I'm just trying to ask her to yield from a straight line. I'm just testing how that will work after a couple of circle work, because sometimes after the horse has kind of suppled up a bit more in the smaller circle work, they will start to yield better also from a straight line. So here's what I'm testing here, that does it work then? But I have to be quite clear, and I have to use my hand and arm rather than the whip to ask for this still. So I think with her overall what works best is to do some kind of turn. So even if it's just a quarter turn, that will help her to step under herself a lot better with the inside hind leg, or just to do the circle like here I'm doing. She also tends to curl very easily when I pick up any contact, and I think that's due to her her mouth, so to say, that she's a little bit sensitive in her mouth because of the bit is possibly a little bit too bulky for her and rattly. So she reacts very easily by going and curling, so going behind the bit and curling when I put any kind of even slight pressure with the reins, which is just taking contact. So, and you can see the example here quite often, that she tends to go behind the bit very easily. And so here I'm also just taking a bit of contact, and she does stretch quite nicely, and every time we come out of the yield, I give the reins very clearly that she can just stretch down and start working properly. And as you could see there, I also tried again the yield from a more straighter line, and she did yield, but it still needed quite a lot of from me asking her to move over. So it's still not optimal, but here it's looking a little bit better. It's looking a little bit easier. So it does work with her that you would start with a smaller circle, and here I didn't get the reaction I wanted, so I went straight into a smaller circle and just asking her to step over with the inside hind, and then I'm straightening her. You can see me using the outside rein quite a lot there every now and then to just straighten her out and direct her to go a little bit more around the arena rather than stay in the smaller circle. So the way I'm using the outside rein is to I'm just picking up my outside hand a little bit over and above her withers, and there I got a really nice very nice deep stretch. So I really rewarded her very clearly. I just gave all the rein, and I just patted her quickly on the neck as well to just say like, yeah, that's a good girl. That was really good stretch there for a little bit. And I just keep on doing those slightly smaller circles every now and then, or just a bit of a turn. And that kind of is the way to go with her. And here you can very clearly see how restless she is with the bit at the moment. So she's quite mouthy with it. So I just stop here to tell Janiene what I've kind of figured out of her horse, like what I tried with her, and how she responded, and what I thought is best to do with her at the moment with the in-hand work, which is the smaller circles every now and then, and just making sure that she's not leaning on us. So here I'm explaining how she's coming into me, wanting to come into me all the time, and I'm just trying to kind of counteract it by asking her to step away from me. So when she's kind of wanting to first come into me, and then she wants to rush past me, so to say. So she's trying to avoid stepping under and bending. And here I'm also explaining that she tends to curl a little bit when you pick up the contact. So I'm just saying, like, you have to give the rein whenever she wants to stretch at all. You need to really give everything, so you need to be very quick. And here we're just having another look at her bit, and yeah, I mean, it is the right length for her, and so on, and it sits okay in the mouth. But I think in general it's rattling too much in her mouth. It is too movable, and she just can't settle with it. So I think something that is a bit less movable in her mouth would be possibly better for her, that she calms down a little bit more. So yeah, and here I think I'm just explaining that if your whip aid is not effective, you can use your hand, and you can use your elbow. So here I'm just saying, like, yeah, if you're not coordinated enough with your whip, or if it's not effective, then don't be afraid to use your hand in the beginning, when they really when they really lean on you. You should be able to ask them to just step away from your space, so to say, give you space and start working with you rather than against you. So yeah, and here I think I was just going to start moving on again, and at the same time kind of explaining to Janiene what I'm doing. And here I'm also showing her how do I take contact with the outside rein, just as she's standing still. So obviously I don't want her to curl, but here you can see how easily she curls, just by me taking a little bit of contact with the outside or the reins. Her reaction is to curl, so to say. So I'm not restricting her very much at all there. I'm just picking up a little bit of contact. As you can see, the rein is quite slack still, but she tends to curl into it rather than stretch forward. So you have to be very clear and careful with the reins with her, that you give a lot, and just try to ask her to move her nose forward into the contact rather than just go and go behind it. And yeah, I think the more she has correct muscle over her top line, and when she settles with her mouth in the bit, the less trouble you have with the curling. But I found that with Pöly, who's also quite easily curls up, if he feels uncomfortable or stiff or anything like that, he also tends to curl very easily, even though we haven't used any forceful contact on him. He's not broken in the neck in any way, but some horses just have that kind of escape routine of or just to show you that I'm not comfortable at the moment, so I'll just curl up because it doesn't feel nice, so to say. So and it can also just be habit to go behind the bit like that, and she has that a little bit, that when you take even a small contact, she might want to curl up very easy and twist her head. Like there you can see that she's tending to twist her head sideways, and here she's just also concentrating on the bit a little bit too much, so she's really chomping and twisting her head in the process. She's not really concentrating on the work at the moment here. So, and I basically didn't have very much contact there either. I had a little bit of contact, but I wasn't pulling her head, so to say, sideways, but she was kind of pushing her own head that way anyway. So here I'm just going around and talking with Janiene at the same time as I'm doing things, and I'm just explaining what I'm doing and so on. And at times I seem to be going a little bit. Sometimes I notice I'm going a little bit in front of her shoulder there. Just a note. But it is also the fact, when you're working and you're talking to another person, it's quite easy to get distracted as well. But this is pretty much pretty nice stretching. And here you can see me. I was just needing to push her over a little bit because she was starting to come into me again. So, but she reacted pretty well there, so that was nice. And you can see again the chomping, that she's really not totally comfortable with the bit in her mouth. And here I'm asking her to yield again, and she's not reacting to my whip, so I tapped with my hand, and she was not reacting to my hand, so I started pushing her more over with my elbow, which was not working so well either. And I think that if I wasn't chatting with Janiene, I would have done a smaller circle right there to just get her stepping across without me having to be that forceful in a way. So you don't really want to start pushing and shoving or fighting with your horse at all. So you want to just be quite light and calm, as light as calm as you can, so to say. And here she's working a little bit better. And here I need to indeed straighten her neck, because she was starting to curl to the inside here. So need to pay attention that her neck stays straight after you ask for the yield. Yep, and here we go with a small circle. I'm just showing her that this works a lot better, even though here we basically almost had a stop. We slowed down a bit too much, and she's thinking, oh, we're stopping here, right? No, I think we need to work a little bit more. So, but that does work better with her, for getting her to step under a little bit better. So a lot better than trying it from the straight line. And she's stretching pretty nicely here as well, just as we were walking away from the camera. It's a kind of a medium stretch, which is pretty okay. And here you can also see me, I'm just controlling the outside rein every now and then. And as you notice that when you control the outside rein, when you pick it up, you're basically totally ineffective with your whip aid. So your inside leg aid, so to say, has become, it's not possible to use it. So you need to kind of pick up contact and on the outside rein when you lift your hand up, but then you have to return back to the normal position with your outside hand before you can give that whip aid again. So it always has to be kind of momentary, and then you return back and ask for the better step under and yield with the inside hind. And yeah, whatever works for stretching. Also sniffing ground is pretty good as long as one keeps on moving forward. Yeah, and here she's starting to have an itch on her side, but doesn't quite go for scratching it. She's gonna soon scratch her side here, and obviously we allow it. As you can see, I'm just giving her loose rein from the inside that she can go and scratch her side. That's all fine. When you have an itch, you have to scratch it, otherwise it will bother you all the time. So yeah, here you can see again how much I have to kind of ask her to move away from my space and yield a little bit to me. And here we're gonna change handler, and Janiene is gonna take over for a while. Yep. And DJ has a little bit of a issue with the camera staying stable, and well, unfortunately we were quite far away from him, so he had to zoom up every now and then quite a lot. We could have been a little bit closer to him, so the video would have been a bit more stable. So here I'm just correcting Janiene's how Janiene holds the whip, because the way this is the easiest way of holding the whip. Once you get used to it, it's a lot easier to use it when you work. If it's really on top of your hand, so to say, instead of it being under. You know, if you turn your palm upwards, you put the rein first through your hand, and then you put the whip between your thumb and index finger. So that's the way it works the best. You have more opportunities of using it, both towards the quarters and where your leg would go if you would be riding. So you would use the whip towards the quarters when you ask the horse to just move on, get more activity, and when you want the horse to go and yield away from you, then you would use it where your leg would go if you were riding. So, and this way is the easiest. If you don't grab it all the time, you just have to relax your outside hand as well, and then the whip will fall automatically downward. So Janiene is holding her whip a little bit too tight here, so it kind of points totally upwards at times. So that's the what you. And there's always the opportunity to go and have a bit of a snack in between things. Yeah, Janiene was just taking some of the hay out so that we can proceed without too much chewing. At the same time, she still has a couple of strands of hay, grass there. But we'll be going fine. Right, we have a bit of a stop here to have a chat, I think. And here we go again. So the way to start walking with your horse in the in-hand is to ask the horse to move on from your whip. So you would then ask the horse to move from your whip. Your whip would be applied towards the quarters, and you would ask the horse to move on. And then when the horse moves on, you start walking with the horse. So that's the best way. Otherwise, it's easy mistake to start kind of leading your horse. If you start moving before your horse moves, then you kind of move too much forward, and that takes you off position, so to say. Right, and her whip is a little bit too short as well for Maggie for doing this work, because it's you should be able to reach the quarters with the whip with the in-hand work, and her whip is a little bit too short, but it still works. That's all right. And you can also have a too long a whip, and then it becomes a little bit too ineffective if it's too long. If you want to touch the horse with the yielding work, where your leg would go, then it's a little bit too clumsy if it's too long. Okay, and here I'm trying to explain to her how to do a smaller circle, and DJ's camera is going a little bit everywhere, sorry for that. So I'm just wanting her to try to do a small circle. I'm just explaining where to tap with the whip to ask her to go on. And here I'm just needing to take over to really show her. And here you can see how Maggie is really, when you pick up any contact, she tends to go slightly behind the vertical, almost immediately there. So here we go again. I'm just gonna show her what I mean with asking her to step in a circle like that. So you just apply the whip to where your leg would go, and you just need to pick a little bit of a contact on both sides of the horse, so both outside and inside hand, and just ask her to go around you in a smaller circle. Sorry for that little bit of sky and ground there instead of us. So here this work is a little bit too slow to be effective, but so you need to think about, once you get this smaller circle work going a bit more, a bit better, you should think about keeping up the activity level much kind of higher than what you see here. So this is too slow, in general. So I would, if I would see this in a video, I would tell like, okay, you should ask the horse to be a little bit more active there, and perhaps the circle would have been too small and so on. But I know obviously now that I've been on the spot, that sometimes you just need to start a little bit slower, and then once the horse understands the yield, the idea of the yield and the reward of it, then you can ask for the horse to pick up the pace more and start working more effectively. Because the activity, you really need the activity with the stepping better under to get the optimal work out of a horse, and the best workout for the muscles, definitely. So here we started on the other side. Other side again for a little bit of work for Janiene to have a feel for it, and I can have a look and advise her. So indeed for her horse Maggie, the smaller circle, or just even a quarter turn in the corners would actually work the best at this point. And once she's warmed up more, and once she's more supple, I think then, like here, you see that that's really quite a good, that's very good yield for Maggie here, to go from a straight line and yield like that. That's excellent for her. So we could not have done this in the beginning from a straight line, but the small circle work has helped to supple her up much more, and now she can do a little bit of yield from the straight line. And here I'm pointing out where I see the muscle starting to activate, and I think it's just behind the saddle area there. You probably can't see it from here from the video. As I said earlier, it's really difficult to see how the muscle activates and moves from a video, because it just doesn't, you just can't see it. You just can't see it. You have to see it in real life. And that's what I pointed out there, and then you can have a it's always a good idea to keep an eye on the muscle, how on the back, and you just have to look backwards every now and then and see where does it get activated, how far, and so on, so that you know that it's all this work is having an effect. Because if you don't see any movement there, if you just keep on working and nothing happens along the back, then there's something is not quite working optimally, and you need to do something else. But here was a really nice stretching there. She's really reaching now out and down and forward with her nose as well, so that was excellent. That's good. She was not restricted at all for that stretch, and she was not curling back or anything, so that's great. But here you also see that any small contact, and if she feels a little bit tight somewhere, she goes and curls. Even if it's just momentary, that's how she tends to react to that. So, but she comes out forward, nose forward, so that's great. And Janiene has good hands for this now, that she knows how to give. So that's great that she does not restrict the stretch at all here. So that's brilliant. And here's a itsy bitsy yield, but see how she reached down with her nose right in the end there, so that's good. So she's now in a kind of a medium stretch here, down to her knees, and you can see that if she just goes a little bit lower than her knees, she's really working very, very well. So it's like, well, that's a little bit too slow. I think she also had to, she had a sniff on the ground again. And here you see Janiene is going a little bit too forward with her body, and I think I will point it out to her as well. Now she returned to a good position by the shoulder. So it's sometimes it's easier, quite easy to walk past your horse when you really willing her to work. work well and be more active. But you have to really keep an eye on yourself so that you won't, because if you walk past the horse, you will block the horse. So the horse will stop eventually if you walk too far forward. So yeah. And I think I'm explaining here obviously something to her that, yeah, I think I'm explaining here that you need to, that she would need to do a turn or when she does a turn, you just kind of direct yourself and you ask for the yield with your body language. And once you have done that, you have to straighten up yourself and just kind of make sure that you are going towards where you are going. So here I was asking her to do a turn and then just walk straight forward. And here Maggie needs another scratch. She is a bit itchy. And here I think we just stopped to have a chat as well, and I'm just explaining things again. So when you kind of when you turn the horse, you can and ask for the yield. You kind of turn more towards the horse and ask for the yield with your whip and your body language at the same time. And then when you need to go forward from that, or straight on from that turn or circle, then you need to turn your body towards where you're going, and just basically, even just the intention of knowing that, okay, I'm now going straight, will also tell the horse that, okay, we're going straight. So you need to have clear intentions when you work with them. So this is again really nice nice yield for Maggie. So this side is going a little bit better than the other side. And it's easier for Janiene as well to coordinate her whip hand on this side. So that's obviously one thing that we all need to become equally good on both hands, so to say, with this work. And it just takes time. It takes time and practice to become fluent with your whip hand, whether it be left or right. And that's why I don't mind to use your hand also if it becomes difficult, because yeah, you need to practice, and sometimes you need to start with a little bit simpler options, so to say, before you can move on to finer aids. And here we had another snack, of course. It's always tempting. Always tempting. Such a nice grass they have there, so it's very alluring. So here we're going a little bit too slow again, but I think it will improve with practice. And she again is walking a little bit too fast in front, away from the shoulder. As I said, it's very easily done, especially on the corners or the curves, when you have to really wait for the horse and not walk at the same pace, so to say. So you have to really pay attention to that. And also, yeah, and also to remember indeed the outside hand, that you have to, when you want to go straight, you need to really be sure that the horses, or keep an eye on that the horse's neck is also straight, that it's not over bending to the inside. But Maggie is looking really good at the moment here. She could stretch a little bit lower than that, but this is okay. So here is the end of our session. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye.